Okay. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Today is March 3rd, and we are talking about the emerging islands of coherence in and around the Western Great Lakes here. And we'll do a quick check-in, and if anyone wants to share about things that are going on, and I'll take notes and I'll kind of summarize and kind of share in general. But so glad to see you all here today. And Bryce is a new friend I just connected with on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and I said, "Hey, if you can make it this afternoon." So welcome to you, Bryce, as well. We're just getting started with a quick round of introductions. If you could just say your name and where you're zooming in from, and how you're arriving today.
My name is Bryce Ruddick. I'm in South Milwaukee, just down the coast a bit, and I'm involved deeply in permaculture since 1980. Also, on the board of directors of the Great Rivers and Lakes Permaculture Institute, and active with Wisconsin Permaculture Convergence as well. A book author of a permaculture text, and I did a lot of design work with Midwest permaculture over the last oh 18 years.
Fantastic. So great to have you here. I know Dave and I have been in a permaculture design course recently, and it's a big thing that I'm excited about. I know Elizabeth and were doing some kind of permaculture education things with her homeschool group as well. So glad to have you join us here today, Bryce. Anyone want to go next?
Hi, I'll go next. My name's Erik Kvam, and what I'm doing currently is I write a Substack uh, panel that's called The Regenerative Transition. My article that I published this morning, title was "The Biosphere's Regenerative Capacity Will Heal the Ecological Crises." And I'll just throw a link in the chat if anyone wants to follow up on that. Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Good to have you.
Well, I'll go next. I don't have much I'm new to Milwaukee. I'm right here on the lake in eastern Milwaukee. And let's see, I'm coming from Colorado, which is how I actually learned about Karen, from a fairly active community up in the mountains, but looking at permaculture in lots of different places. I'm sorry, bioregional permaculture on the brain. Bioregional through Karen, and you met through a woman that's a very good friend of mine working with bioregional of the area there as well as other places around the world. And I'm learning about here, and I've actually gotten pretty involved with the Sierra Club here, which is great. So that's kind of where I am with that, and also with the social justice movement here in town, which is not bioregional exactly, but supporting, yes, supporting the environment. Yeah, so that's me.
There is the Milwaukee Environmental Justice Association, MEJA, that you may want to connect with, and the Fair Future Movement is a Milwaukee-based organization that ties together environmental justice and environmental things with the legacy injustices that we've got going on in Milwaukee, and working to solve them at the same time.
Great, thank you for
Yeah,
those.
of course, of course. Who next?
I'll go. Hey everyone, my name is Dave Wolf. I'm here in the Miami Valley, Dayton area in Southwest Ohio. So not exactly, uh, we'll say adjacent to this group, a friend of the group. So I've been in the design school for regenerating Earth for just a little over a year, I think, at this point. So learning a lot about bioregionalism, and just finished up a permaculture course there, which was very exciting, and learning about all the different, mm, everything's connected together. So where are the connections where we can kind of amplify each other's work locally here? I've been um, a part of trying to include myself in Coop Dayton, the cooperative movement here locally, and they do all sorts of interesting stuff. So, for example, they have a now a cooperatively owned uh, grocery store in a kind of a food desert part of the community. So it was, I thought I wanted to find somebody doing the real work, and I'm like, so I'd never done that kind of stuff before, and man, it doesn't feel like it gets a lot more real than that. So I want to go learn from these folks on how they do things. So I got involved there, and that feels like a good place to leave it for me for today. Thank you.
Awesome. And Dave and I, in a couple of weeks, are going to be in Cleveland giving a presentation on bioregionalism at the Midwest Climate Summit.
Cool.
So we've been in
Nice.
planning meetings for doing that, and we're going to do a bog slog in Cleveland as well. Um, let's see, Elizabeth and Deanna.
Yeah, I can go. I'm Deanna. I was born and raised in Michigan, and I now live in Duluth, Minnesota. But in Michigan, I have been doing watershed restoration work for about 8 years after finishing college. And then I went to Detroit area, went to University of Michigan, and studied environmental justice. That's my graduate degree. And then that brought me in part to Minnesota because I was working with different tribes. And now I have a job as a climate resilience planner, which is a fancy title, but what I really do is I help local governments and tribal governments work together more on the North Shore of Lake Superior. And our big goal is to, yep, you can see on that map kind of behind
Right
Karen,
there. Wow.
the North Shore of Lake Superior there, with the goal to create a kind of regional climate resilience plan. Lots of like cities and some counties have plans, but this is like working together to create a plan, kind of an overarching plan. But within that is really just a lot of relationship building and getting folks to come together more. So that's pretty much what I do, is help people build relationships together. And I met Karen at a conference last fall in Milwaukee. So that's how I got connected to this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you're able to join us today. Thanks, Deanna.
Yeah.
And is Elizabeth able to get?
Yes, I can. Hi, my name's Elizabeth. I am newer-ish to this, transitioning from biomedical engineering to conservation and urban gardening, and kind of intertwining urban gardening with like water conservation or like permaculture and food sovereignty or like food justice. So I'm new and I love learning and hearing people's projects. And yeah, like Karen and I are trying to work on some projects for the homeschooling group I'm with, and possibly some other ones.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things Elizabeth is inspiring me to think about doing a little paddle this summer with her homeschooling group. Maybe Dave wants to come visit with his homeschooling group. We're imagining the headwaters, imagining our journey to the Mississippi River. And for us in Milwaukee, it starts right about here, which is my hometown. I was I was born in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, and so we're going to go on a little paddle on the Oconomowoc River in June, and you're all invited. We're still working on the details of it, but I think on Wednesdays in June we're going to meet up to do things like paddles, and then I also want to go visit a couple of other sites along the Rock River as it goes to the Mississippi. One is historically significant as Aztalan State Park, which is was a place that it has like burial mounds, and it was a settlement like over 1,000 years ago but reflecting the way people have used these waterways for millennia to get around the Wisconsin area. And then Milton House Museum, which is an Underground Railroad museum, and sort of talking about the history of people navigating to freedom through the waterways as well. So I'm working on some storytelling things with Elizabeth, and again, thinking with this bioregional mind, thinking about watersheds and the ways that the stories of our waters connect us. So the first part of the meeting, I wanted to just kind of do that check-in, and then I know people are working on different projects and things. If anyone wants to go into some detail with sharing what's on your mind, I also want to just plug a couple of things that are coming up. I'm going to email out events and things like that, and I am glad that Erik and others are sharing into the chat here if there are any dates or links or things that you want to be typed correctly. That will make it easier for me to copy and paste that into kind of a summary that I can share with others. Bryce, can you, since you started us off, can we start with you again? This is the first that I've met you, and I'm just so excited to hear a little bit more about your background or what your kind of hopes are for getting connected with other permaculturally oriented folks around here.
Well, back around 20 years ago, there was a discussion group that was begun at the Urban Ecology Center at Riverside Park called Pathways to Sustainability. And I was active in that discussion group until it morphed into Transition Towns Milwaukee, and then active in that for a number of years. And we started focusing on working groups. One group went off and founded the Victory Garden Initiative, and the other one had what we call the Water Working Group. The Water Working Group started in 2010 to go and help homeowners and schools and churches to collect rainwater to mitigate on-site flooding. So we would use, instead of rain barrels, we were using IBC totes, which hold a total of 270 gallons each, which is a far cry from a rain barrel, and enables you to actually water a garden. And I worked at a paint factory in Oak Creek. So because I was the warehouse guy, I had to unload empty IBC totes. And if any of them had been damaged in the loading or doing transit, where the metal cage had been damaged, that then meant that they could not be roadworthy according to the Department of Transportation. So we would throw them out and shred them. And I got the okay to go and take these, and we used these. We had a storage site over by the water tower on South 6th Street. I forget the name of the place, but it was a landscaping company. And we would store the totes there. I'd go pick them up, take them to the site where we are going to do the rain garden installation, and we would set that up to collect rainwater off rooftops for people to use in community gardens and such. So that was one thing. And then, of course, in 2014, a collaboration that I was working on with two other permaculturists, Dan Halsey and Wayne Weissman, of a book, Integrated Forest Gardening, the complete guide to polycultures and plant guilds and permaculture systems. I know, long subtitle. I didn't dream that up. That was a publisher. And then I spent some years working with Dan Halsey at his plant guilds, a natural capital plant database, as editor and chief researcher. I did that up until about 3 years ago. And there we have a database of useful plants, global useful plants, anywhere on the planet type useful plants for eco-restoration efforts globally, not just in somebody's vegetable garden in Seattle or whatever. We were doing projects in India and stuff through United Designers, another group that he was active with. And I would do the research on the plant species and their uses, characteristics, ecological uses as well. And we had at last count something like, I think maybe 8,000 plants in the database.
Cool.
Currently, I'm working on advising a project that one of my students is supervising at the Bridget Center in Kewaskum. It's a green burial site and community center at an old Catholic church, St. Bridget's Catholic Church, and a fantastic place, as well as helping some friends with their permaculture garden up along the Lake Michigan shore, north of the town of Belgium, and then with I'm on the board of directors at the Great Rivers and Lakes Permaculture Institute, which is how I heard of you through Kelly Clark. And yep. And last fall, I attended and participated in the GLES gathering, the Great Rivers and Lake, or the Greater Lake Erie Southern Shore. That was it. That was a long trip. This year we have a permaculture convergence, Midwest Permaculture Convergence, going to be happening in late June. More on that at another meeting. And that'll be held in, I think, Bloomingdale, Michigan. And we're finalizing our speakers for that. I have a meeting tomorrow on that. And then also, I'm working on the planning committee. I'm on the planning committee for the Wisconsin Permaculture Convergence, which will be later this summer. And we're hoping to have it in the Driftless area this year. Last year we had it in Rhinelander at a beautiful site, but right when it got cold. So that was kind of a downer that ways. And other than that, it's like that's just I pretty much do permaculture. I'm doing a lot of um, planning on um, climate change adaptation and resiliency lately. That's our focus at the Midwest Permaculture Convergence, and it's my personal one too. It's like adapting to what's going to be happening, um, lifestyle changes that I can make and stuff like that. And I've been working on this since I first read Limits to Growth back in 1973. So I've been on this road for a very long time.
Well, I'm so glad Kelly directed you in our direction, and Kelly is on the panel with Dave and I in Cleveland in a couple of weeks for the
Yep.
Midwest Climate Summit, and I'm just feeling so much resonance with other projects that are on my radar in terms of biodiversity corridors and incentivizing kind of landscape level not only regeneration, but kind of mapping for corridors and taking it not only in the urban or the rural context, but the urban context and working with city planners and parks department and all these different layers that grew out of the climate summit that I attended last year. So I feel like every time I go to these different meetings and I meet people like Deanna and Dave, where we kind of continue the work and weaving in different ways. And so anyway, glad to make that connection with you here, Bruce. Glad to have you joining us here. Limits to Growth is also reminding me of degrowth, and I've been connecting with folks in Chicago who organize around degrowing the economy to within our planetary limits. And I know Erik has been to our Degrowth 101 a couple months ago, and we're going to do it. We're going to talk about that in Cleveland as well. We've got a lunch and learn set up during the conference to talk about that. Who would like to jump in next?
Come on in, the water's fine.
I when I started this Zoom, this is of course our Lake Michigan and friends, but because I recently created an event for the Serviceberry, the book. For some reason, it's naming all of my meetings the Serviceberry, but it's reminding me that we are having book club to talk about Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, The Serviceberry, and that's coming up in 3 weeks on the 23rd at 2 p.m. local time. If anyone's actually, I'll drop a link in for that. If anyone wants to RSVP to the Serviceberry Book Club, I can do that.
We'll try talking a little bit about what's going on here. I feel very like the new kid on the block, especially with folks like Bryce and others who have been in this work for years and years. Uh, I guess this has kind of slowly percolated into my consciousness over time, and coming to see like the true state of the world and where we are. I forget if I had mentioned. So last year, as part of that, I decided to join the design school for regenerating Earth, and then locally here, taking the approach of like acting locally but connecting globally. So the connecting globally part is through the design school, and then the acting locally is through the Coop Dayton and other organizations that are associated with them, so that I can kind of focus in on, because otherwise, for me anyways, it's like really overwhelming. Because like we were talking in another meeting, Karen, about there's like 1,000 things I could do, but all that's going to do is like paralyze me into like not taking action. So what do I need to focus on? So I picked those two organizations to kind of fulfill that design aspect of how I want to do the work that I want to do, and then also my wife and I homeschool our children, so we're involved in the local homeschool community. So that adds another layer of focus to the work that I want to do, and yeah, so some specific things coming up for me locally here of potential paths forward is doing something like a neighborhood nature program for kids just right in my hyper local community, my neighborhood. So that might look like a weekly or bi-weekly thing over the summer, because I want to include not just the homeschool kids, but I also want to include public school students as well, incorporate it for everybody. And so that might, I haven't designed it yet, but that might be something just like super basic things. I want the idea to be, you don't have to like go away from your house to somewhere else to like experience nature. At least where I am, it's in the suburbs. All right, so things are limited. But also there are things that you just walk outside your front door, walk out your back door, and you can experience some things. So how do we associate it with like citizen science programs, like bird watching, bird counting, um, amphibian counts, things like that. Maybe we could do like a little thing on soil analysis. Not something real complicated with kids, but let's dig up some dirt, put it in a jar with some water and mix it up and see what settles out. And that can give you a little bit of information. We're not going to go, like master's level at the local university or something like that, but just like an introduction of, hey, here's a cool thing that you could look at, to find out a little bit of information about the soil and how you can grow things there. What happens to the water when it hits the top of your house, and what's the path that it follows? And maybe just like picking one little or one very focused thing to do for an hour, like once a week or once every other week. Um, there's other things too, but let me stop there. Um, that feels a good place to stop for me for now.
Thank you, Dave. I am typing in a couple of different things that I'm thinking of as dates that are coming up. Like I said, I'll send this out in an email. But one thing that is starting in a few weeks in the Design School for Regenerating Earth, which is where a couple of us have met, have connections, to talk about regenerating through collapse. And that's going to be a 6-month learning journey that we meet every other Tuesday for 2 hours over Zoom, and then we have like other opportunities to plug in if you want to chat more about the concepts that are discussed during that week. But I'm feeling, more seriously the impacts of global different elements that are collapsing that that are, part of what we need to navigate as we are doing our regenerative projects, and the permaculture of observing and interacting, and recognizing that change presents opportunities to try new things. And those are the work that I try to do as a storyteller, and inspiring people to imagine survivable futures, and the kinds of ways that we can plug into solutions joyfully. Because I think a lot of us are kind of sometimes I feel paralyzed with like, there's so many possible things to do. I don't even know if it's productive to do this, but there are, I've been very intentional about seeking places that feel aligned, coherent with survivability to being within planetary limits, as we've already discussed, limits to growth. And for me, participating in these kind of biweekly conversations with that group is part of how I'm just dealing with reality. But it has given me a lot of structure for thinking about how to talk about the storytelling and the kind of activism that I'm doing. And then I'm also going to drop in a date about Limicon, which is an online conference that goes for the month of March and into April. And it's all sorts of different people who it's like an unconference that people can create their own events, and there's all sorts of discussions. And I have a discount code for free access to it. So I'm dropping that in the chat as well for Limicon. And then the fourth element that I'm dropping in is for Earth Month coming up in April. So I'll have a chance to talk about this next month, but just to get it on any of you who are Milwaukee local, I've been involved with the League of Women Voters of not only Milwaukee County, but of Lake Michigan and the state of Wisconsin, because it's a group of organizers that are organized bioregionally, and already have these ways of advocating for policy and civic participation. So I've been really kind of getting involved more with that organization. And the Ozaukee County and Washington County League, which is just north of the city, like Cedarburg. We had an event in Cedarburg Library, if that's familiar to some of the locals here. We're doing an Earth Day event on April 11th, and I'm going to do a little walk and talk. And so I'll drop the date for that in here as well.
Karen, could you repeat the name of the design school?
Yeah, the Design School for Regenerating Earth is an online, it's an online school, but there aren't like classes or Well, there's classes, but there aren't like grades. And the design school was started by Joe Brewer and Penny Heipel. Joe Brewer wrote a book called The Design Pathway for Regenerating the Earth. And we did that in book club about a year and a half ago. And they have been hosting these learning journeys every year. One of them a couple years ago, 2 years ago, was about organizing your bioregion. Last year was about bioregional immersions. This year it's about like organizing through collapse. And I will drop a link into that as well in the chat.
Interesting. Thanks.
I think it's amazing how collapse has suddenly become a primary narrative in so many of the permaculture venues, including Permaculture Institute North America, where they have come up with a series of disaster guides, if you're familiar with those, having to do with hurricane adaptation and relief, flooding, fire, and I think they're working on economics now.
That's interesting to hear you say that, Bryce. I've heard the collapse in like various circles, but I had not heard specifically before that it's like permeating permaculture specifically. So thank you for bringing that up. And
Oh yeah. The point person on that is Corrine Brennan uh, of Asheville, North Carolina. And she's a longstanding permaculturist who has done a lot of work, I believe, on the Sioux reservations in the Dakotas, as well as a whole lot of other places. She's been doing this for years. And Permaculture Institute North America got into this last year. They had if you go on their site, you can find the Permaculture Crossing is what the site is called. So you go on the Permaculture Crossing, you actually find the videos of the presentations that were done, and I attended all of those online last autumn regarding flood, fire, hurricane preparedness and such. And they had people who had been on the ground and organizing the relief efforts, and that's what the guides came out of these people's experiences working on organizing relief efforts and how to go about that, as well as some prevention guidelines.
It's interesting, the connection with Asheville, and I'm thinking about another thing that we're doing in the design school is we're playing this game called Metachrysalis,
Yep,
which is about, you know about Metachrysalis.
I heard about it from Kelly.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we're going to play the game with Kelly in a couple of weeks when we're there as well. But a couple of us, Dave and I and Erik, have all done a character sheet for this role-playing game that is based on like the metacrisis is an opportunity to be a metachrysalis into transforming into a new thing. And I lost my train of thought there, but that we're playing that in the design school, and I've been thinking about the whole storytelling framework that is emerging about this bog witch, and she does bog rant. She's becoming coherent as the landscape is becoming coherent, and returning. Erik and I have talked about like taking unburying the rivers, right, to daylight the water, like the bogs that have the city of Milwaukee is built on wetlands.
Yes.
You know, the Menominee River, Menomine, is wild rice. It was a huge wild rice valley, basically. that got filled in, and we have all these consequences for filling in wetlands. And in my imagination, I think that's what we're returning to, right? One way or another, we are deconstructing. Either we won't be able to continue building concrete roads that are going to continue to dissolve because there is a river underneath them, and we have to repave them and repave them, or we'll find other ways of going around the wetlands the way people have for thousands of years. And so, uh, Kelly has also been involved with this. Dave and I were actually just on the Zoom a few minutes before this, looking at the Metachrysalis website and how, as it is evolving, we are able to use that as a tool for helping people find projects that are in their region, understanding like the permaculture ins and outs of the permaculture capitals that are part of the projects that people might be plugging into. The moves in the game are a way of doing a move in the real world, and we're working on flowing funding into those elements. I remember why I brought it up, because Daniel was involved with people in Asheville after Hurricane Helene, and that's part of how this game developed, is because of disaster response. And with that, with COVID, and with the invasion of Ukraine, like three different kinds of gaming scenarios, or kind of strategizing games that evolved into, well, what if we developed a game intentionally that was kind of a climate solutions game of enabling people to create their change maker character and then plug into the existing ecosystems of their watersheds, and either work with people who are already doing water, restoration programs like Deanna, or helping find other people who are doing complementary work and plug in with them. Or if you're just like, I'm new to town, I want to volunteer, I want to figure out what how to plug in, to be able to just find, oh, well, here's people doing this in Milwaukee, and here's people doing this in Dayton, and in Duluth, and wherever else we may be. And I dropped a link for that in there as well. And Betsy, I thought of another Milwaukee local thing I want you to know about for April. The last Saturday of April is this huge citywide like river cleanup. There are over 150 different sites that you can plug into, and the Milwaukee Riverkeeper, I think it's milwaukeeriverkeeper.org.
Yep, Cheryl Nen.
With Cheryl Nen, yes, the wonderful Riverkeeper. Milwaukee Riverkeeper, to find out. Yeah, probably one of the sites at the Urban Ecology Center. Oh, yeah, Elizabeth's already saying she'll be at one of the sites at the Urban Ecology Center. And also, at the end of the day, there's a big party at the Harley Davidson Museum, and there's food and bands and everything. And so it's a big cleanup day, and everyone gets together and loves on the rivers. And even when it's like cold and awful, we're out there with our our gloves and our trash bags, pulling stuff out of the rivers. It's fun.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And the Bridget Center. Thank you. I had written down Kewaskum and Green Burial, and I was like, oh, what was he saying about that? How am I going to find out about that more?
Bridget Center in Kewaskum. Just Google that. It'll come right up, and you'll be able to email Peggy through that site. But like I said, she also does annual restoration work along the river, plantings and such. They get a lot of high school kids and community people to come out and work on cleaning up the river and putting in plantings that support clean runoff and such. Funny that you talked about the Menominee River. It reminded me that back around 1970 or so, when I was in college, uh, and my summer job was working in public works as a laborer. And one of the guys that I met had been, well, he was a very, very elderly guy getting about ready for retirement, but his dad used to take him hunting and fishing along the Menominee River in Milwaukee County.
Hmm.
That's how clean it was back when that guy was a kid. And by the time that I was looking at it, and I'm looking at Falk Corporation and all the other dirty industries that were down there around 35th Street and 27th Street and such, and going like, no way, man.
Okay, now I want to share this link too about unseated. Oh, Deanna, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good to see you all. Thanks
to
for
see
the
you.
invitation. Take care.
Have a good spring.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. This website, Unseated Milwaukee, has images of pre-settlement Milwaukee, and I'm just fascinated by like the planting grounds, the farms, the gardens throughout the city, that there are still community gardens in the same neighborhoods of these gardens that were tended by native people in the area prior to um, European settlement, prior to 1838 and the creation of the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County.
There's also Reservoir Park. You know where that is on North Avenue? That is one of the highest points in that area of the city and was the site of a mound complex.
That was a mound complex too. So at Lake Park, Reservoir Park, Forest Home Cemetery,
Mhm.
Bryce, I wrote a book called Easy Walks and Paddles in Milwaukee
Yep.
that goes all over the city. I'll drop a link into that here too. Uh, and all of those places, I'm again just fascinated by the places that
I got that.
have survived. There were a lot of burial mounds throughout the area, but that were leveled or altered during settlement. There's a couple there's one at Lake Park that still exists, and I
Mhm.
did a blog post about the bird effigy mound that's in Madison on the Isthmus in Madison. For my Bog Witch Substack, which I just started a couple weeks ago. Um,
You can download a PDF file of Increase Lapham's book, Antiquities of Wisconsin. Increase Lapham was the first Wisconsin state geologist, and he researched the Indian mounds that were still accessible at that time, back in the late 19th century, that had not been plowed over yet. So, and some that had, he even covered a lot of that. So many of the ones that are covered in the book are no longer available to find because they've been like just plowed right through. But there's a lot in there, and a huge section on Milwaukee.
Hmm.
yeah, Increase Lapham is related to the Estalon State Park as well. I think there was, Lapham Peak is named
Yep.
after Increase Lapham, and he founded the Weather Service, and there was something in the brochure, the history stuff that I was reading about. I'm sure he did surveying all over Wisconsin in the
Yeah, he
1800s.
didn't have a big crew, so it was pretty much just maybe him and a couple other people. So I'm sure he got out of the office quite a bit. Guy's one of my heroes. I first read that book back when I was in college, and it made a big impression on me.
This is a little, it's kind of a tangent, but coming from the West and still thinking about home back there and talking about collapse, and they're in severe, severe drought. They have had almost no snow. They've closed Rudai Reservoir, which feeds the river that runs right through the center of the valley, to all activity. There's just not enough water for any kind of sport activity in the summer. And Lake Powell, someone was saying the other day that there's very little water in Lake Powell. It's going to be, and I know they're working on supposed to be working on a Colorado plan for the Colorado River that they've not been able to come up with, and supposedly the government will step in, but I don't think they're in any, they've got other fish they're frying. And so the West is going to be in collapse and fire danger. I mean, I had 5 acres of pinyon forest that I sold in the spring, but it's still the whole side of the mountain. It's dire.
Sad to hear that about Lake Powell. My cousin Joe Lapikis has a paddle boarding outfitter business out that ways, and I know he does Lake Powell quite a bit.
I had a chance to be paddling the San Juan as they were backfilling. I had to paddle against the current of filling Lake Powell back in the 70s. That was quite an experience before a lot of the places were covered. Pretty amazing experience.
Rita Marsh, who Betsy knows, is in the design school, and she shared this article a couple days ago about the Colorado River crisis, and it talks about Lake Powell having like 12 months left of the ability either to produce energy or water, but not both, and how it really is like existential at like and it may disproportionately affect communities like Tempe, Arizona,
All
where
the time.
yeah, and how the tension between like uh the upper drainage and the lower drainage, and the people in Colorado being like, well, there isn't a lot of water to I mean, all of the international water compacts between not only Colorado and other states, but with I know more about the Rio Grande Compact because when I lived in Colorado, I lived in the San Luis Valley in Alamosa, and they had a saying that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting, and I had been to places where like the sheriff had been called because people were upset about apportioning water and turning off the irrigation, the acequia system that they have there. When I was a beekeeper, it was like, why is the county sheriff here? So I mean, we're incredibly blessed in the upper or in the Great Lakes basin, but like just over the ridge to the upper Mississippi drainage, it's in drought here in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's pretty green and lush, but it's year after we're things are different, things are changing.
Have you seen the National Forest Service USFS analyses, their projections for um, vegetation cover as we go forward? How the climate change will affect the climates in, say, northern Wisconsin?
Boy, I'm sorry that we
Okay,
lost Deanna. Yeah.
the U.S. Forest Service did analyses beginning in 2014 and continuing and updating them up until recently. Won't get into that. On the impacts of climate change on the different states and their forests. And in it, they said, yes, it will get warmer in Wisconsin's north, say Rhinelander and such, the Northern Highland State Forest, which is part of that Mississippi River watershed. But winters will not change. Winters will still be, it'll snow um, quite a bit, and it'll be as cold. Summer temperatures will be maybe a few degrees warmer. So they weren't seeing it being outrageously different looking forward for Wisconsin's North Country. More so, I think difficulties would be, say, out in the driftless area, where already the temperatures go up into the like 106 and stuff like that in the summertime. Um, and of course, some significant rain events as we witnessed here in Milwaukee County last year. But they've got this for every state. And generally, as you were saying, the Great Lakes states are able to go and tap into Lake Michigan and Lake Superior and Lake Huron and to a lesser degree Lake Erie because it's so dang shallow. Um, so there is some temperature remediation from proximity to the lake as well as water supply. Whereas out west, of course, the Ogallala water aquifer and such are drying up. And I'm going to be reading that article that you have there from about Tampa because my daughter and grandchildren live in Phoenix.
That's
For some strange reason, they moved out there, which,
there's no water.
yeah, there's not much water there. She doesn't seem too concerned about it, but it has to do with her employer. I'm assuming she works for a big shipping company, global shipping company, and has a really nice job. So I can't complain. But she keeps saying, "Dad, you should move out here." And I go, "You got to be kidding!" I was out there once. That was 16 years ago when I took my teaching certification in permaculture at Arco Santi, 70 miles north of Phoenix. It was middle of March. I got off the doggone airplane, and it's 85 degrees in Phoenix. I thought I was going to die.
Every day.
It was 36 when I left here.
No. Yeah.
But yeah, there's every general region, the Intermountain region, the Cascades, the Alleghenies, the Appalachians, North and South, all have climate impacts studies that were done by the Forest Service. And of course, then this directly impacts all the communities around there, including some major cities. So if you just go online to the United States Forest Service site, you'll find Forestry, which is a compendium of all their reports and data, and you can download some of this stuff from there if you just do a simple search. I have it all in hardcover because early on I was able to go and get free from the government. This is one of the things that our government used to do for us, give us free copies of reports that they did. So these things are in like booklet form of several hundred pages each. I've got soil books. I've got ecosystem books. I've got these forest reports too. If I stack this stuff all up, it's about 3 feet high.
It looks like you've got a bioregional learning center right at your fingertips there.
I do. In fact, I even the one on bioregions, which is a nice hardcover thingy. I gave that link also to the Pina people, and Corinne Brennan goes, "Oh my goodness, this is great." So all this stuff is out there. It's like we don't have to like duplicate.
Sure.
A lot of it's been done, and to get the general information, it's just, now we have to take those tools and we have to build.
We are coming to the close of our hour. This was a really wonderful
Yeah,
conversation.
rich.
We will meet again on the first Tuesday of April, which will be April 7th. And same bat time, same bat channel. This is a new time, actually. We had been meeting at 2 o'clock, but I realized with the elections coming up and I work as an election worker, I needed to move it a little bit later in the afternoon so I could do my morning shift with the working at the polls on April 7th. So I'll be coming straight from that. And delight to connect with you all. I'm so glad to the new folks who were able to join us.
It was really wonderful to learn all of this.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Yes, thank you, Karen. And that interested me about reading Increase Lapham's book. I'll take a look for that.
Awesome.
I'll look up that link for that and share it next time.
Terrific. Terrific.
Great.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
good-
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Wow. Aloha.
Aloha.
Mhm.
Mahalo.
Leave. Where's my leave?